Hello, friends. How is everyone doing? You have made it to workshop 4 of Kettlebells 101. It's kind of crazy that we're already here. I felt like this was kind of a massive undertaking, 5 full days of 30-minute workouts or workshops rather, and we're already on day 4. So this and one more, and we will be at the finish line. So today is going to look a lot like the third workshop where we're going to do about a 5-minute warm up, and then we're going to go through 2 more foundational movements. Today we're going to be doing deadlifts and overhead presses. But first, we'll start with our warm up stretch, which is going to look very similar or probably the exact same as what we did yesterday. So we're going to come on down to the floor and we're going to move through cat and cow a few times, getting some movement through our back and our spine, and we'll go from there. So let's go ahead and start on all fours, shoulders over your hands, hips over your knees. We're going to take an exhale breath, and we're going to round up from your lower back to your mid back to your neck, chin to your chest, exhale. And then inhale, drop your stomach, lift your gaze, eyes up. We're going to do that 3 times. So I'm just getting up to let friends in. And we'll go ahead and do that again. We're rounding up into cat. Exhale your breath, and then inhaling into cow. Let's take it one more time. Hi. And then we're going to be neutral spine. So pulling that stomach in towards our back. And then we're going to take our right arm up, big stretch, big reach up towards the ceiling. Eyes follow your fingertips. And then we're going to do that on the left. Totally normal if you feel like one side is a little bit more flexible than the other. After a couple rotations up, we're going to thread the needle, bring that right arm through, pushing your shoulder and the back of your arm into the ground. And then we'll switch left. Couple times, right and left. And then we're going to reach our fingertips forward, stretching your hips back towards your heels, and take a breath. One more time. Okay, we're going to bring our right leg in front. Left knee is going to stay down. We're going to tuck your hips under, shift your weight forward. We're going to squeeze your left glute to get into our left hip flexor. And then from here, we'll straighten your front leg, hinge your hips back, keeping your back straight. So we're not just rounding down to your leg, which doesn't really stretch the back of your leg. Hinging your hips back and keeping your back straight is going to get into this right hamstring, back of your knee, and then by flexing your foot at your ankle, getting into your calf. From here, we're going to bring your big toe down and the inside of your right foot down towards the floor. We're going to put your hands on the ground, and then we're going to shift our weight back and then forward. So just getting some nice hip rocks forward and back, promoting external rotation of your right hip and just getting that joint moving and grooving as we're going to use it later in this workout. Now we're going to straighten, if you can, your back leg. Your right leg is going to stay bent. Your palms of your hands are going to be on the floor. So you can either stay here or you can tuck your toes under and lift up that back leg, which is going to promote a little bit more stretching through the front of your left hip. And then we're going to take our right arm up. Exhale, pull your elbow down towards the floor. And now we're just moving through 5 rotations in your runner stretch. One more time. And then we'll switch legs. So now we're going to put our right knee down. Our left leg, we're going to step it forward. We're going to tuck our pelvis under, shift your weight forward. Go ahead and squeeze your right glute. Get into the front of your right hip. And then straighten your front leg. Flex your foot at your ankle. Send those hips back, getting into your hamstring, back of your knee, and your calf. So this is a stretch I do many times throughout the day, either with clients or in my group classes. And I feel like over the years, I've kind of honed in on what really works to warm your body up and just move through all the different planes, forward and back, side to side, rotation. I feel like I do a lot of rotations in my warm up because throughout our day and life, we're constantly turning, picking stuff up. All that stuff is really good to warm up and use all the time. Okay, we are on our feet. We're gonna stretch up, take an inhale breath, and then we're gonna reach down for either your knees, your shins, your feet, or the floor. It just depends on where you can go today. And we'll do that a few times. Inhale, stretch up. Exhale, reach down. Let's do that one more time. And then we're gonna do what's called a walkout. So from down here, reaching for the floor, I want you to put one hand on the floor, then the other hand, and keep walking yourself out until you get to a plank position. Your feet are together, your shoulders are over your hands, your triceps are nice and tight. You're pushing the floor away with your hands, and we're squeezing our stomach muscles, hugging your stomach muscles up and in towards your spine, not pushing down towards the floor. Our legs are tight, our glutes are squeezed, and then let's go ahead and walk our hands back to our feet. So I just snuck in a little plank for us there. Now we're gonna do some reverse lunges with rotation. So we're gonna step back. I'm gonna put my knee all the way down to the floor, and then I'm gonna rotate over my front leg. So my left leg's in front, I'm just gonna turn my body to the left, and then I'm gonna stand up. Other leg steps back, rotate, and come on up. So we're gonna do about 4 or 5 of these reverse lunges with rotation on each side. And then we have one more stretch after this. I'm going kind of slowly, just because I know it's a lot of information if you haven't done this warm up before, but in my classes, it's like 5 minutes. And then we get to the good stuff. We're gonna go nice and wide with our feet, stretch down for the floor. So a little bit of a stretch through the backs of your legs, inner thighs, and then we're gonna squat over to one side. So bringing your right hip down towards your right heel, trying to keep our heels down on the floor. If we're able to keep our heels down, that promotes more of this nice deep stretch through your ankles, which is something that we use quite a bit on, say, like squats. Today, we're not doing squats. Today, we're doing deadlifts and overhead presses. Okay, that's probably good on those lateral squats. And then a little bit of wrists, a little bit of ankles. And then we'll get into today's curriculum. So yesterday, I just want to go over the difference between what we did yesterday and what we did today, what we're doing today. Yesterday was a squat and a row. So our squat pattern, if I have it unweighted, I'm just going to use body weight for my squats. Arms out in front of you, send those hips down and back, pulling those knees out over your pinky toes, chest stays up, and then we're standing all the way up. So that is our squat pattern, which is an up and down, right? Like your body's going down and it's going back up, more of an up and down pattern. And it is considered like a lower body pushing exercise, because if you think about, you're pushing the floor away as you stand. So lowering yourself down, pushing the floor away as you stand. Today, we're going to be learning a deadlift, which is a hinge pattern with your hips. So you think about your hips hinging. We're going to push those hips back. So our hips are the primary movers in our deadlifts, different from our squats, where our knees and ankles are the primary movers. So with your hinge, hips are moving back, very slight bend in your knees. They're definitely not locked out. And then a slight bend through your ankles. So for people that have like ankle issues, knee issues, generally deadlifts are a little bit like friendlier and still something that you can do even when you have some lower body issues. Deadlifts are a little bit more focused on your glutes, your hamstrings, and like your back muscles too. So a lot of people are like, I feel my back. That's okay. You don't want to ever have sharp shooting pains when you're working out or after exercising, but in a deadlift, like we are using a ton of back muscles, lower back, middle back, lats. So all that stuff is okay to feel your back. You do have muscles in your back, so it's okay to use them when you're lifting. Okay, so squat yesterday, hinge today, and let's grab I would say medium-sized kettlebell. If this is your first time ever deadlifting, maybe a lighter kettlebell. But usually, especially like people, women, we can usually deadlift a decent amount of weight. So I don't want you to be scared of it. But just pick up something that you feel is like going to be doable. I have a 26 right here. And it's 26 because it's 12 kilograms, which translates to 26 pounds. Okay, for our squat, we did feet about hip distance apart, which I was like, maybe a little bit wider, and toes out. For our deadlift, we're going to be different. We're going to be toes and heels are going to be in a straight line, and our feet are going to be parallel to one another. So when you're looking at your feet and then you're looking at the kettlebell that's in between your feet, I want it to look like the letter H. So the handle of the kettlebell is kind of like that midpoint of the H. And your handle should be lined up with the arches of your feet. Kind of feels weird, like you're on top of your kettlebell, but that's actually what you want, because when we pick that weight up, we're just picking it right up, like right up our body, as opposed to out in front of us and picking it up that way. So I'm going to show you about a 45-degree angle, but I did want to show you that like dead forward view at first. So feet are hip distance apart, toes and heels are in one line. The handle is the H of your letter H. We're going to send our hips back. So we're going to put our hands to our hips and just push those hips back. Like if there was a wall behind you, you want to tap that wall with your booty. Stick it out, show it off. Our back is going to stay straight. Our abdominals are going to stay pulled in. So we're not arching right here and we're not rounding. So we're just in a nice straight line with our torso. Bend your knees enough that you can grab that handle. Okay, so we're grabbing the handle. Then you want to think about pulling your shoulders in to socket. And so what we talk about is breaking the kettlebell handle. Like if you were going to break a stick, you'd be pulling to the outside. That's going to crank your shoulders down into place so that they're not up by your ears. The actual deadlift is the easiest part. It's all the setup stuff that takes the most time. So hands to your hips, push those hips back, break the handle, packing those shoulders down and back, and then you just stand up the weight. So that is the most simple part. So from the ground, stand it up at the top of your deadlift. Your arms are relaxed. So we're not locking out our arms. We're not bending them up like this. We're just standing nice and tall from your shoulders to your hips to your heels. It's all one long line. We're squeezing our butt, squeezing it on the way up, bracing our core, and just feeling like we're nice and tall at the top. To get back down to the floor, send those hips back. We're going to go nice and slow, maybe like 2 seconds down, tap the floor, stand it back up. You can keep your hands on the kettlebell the whole time. Tap it down, exhale, stand it up. Let's do 3 more. Good, last one, tap and stand. Nice job. Okay, so we can set that kettlebell down. Some common things that I see when people are first getting started is, I think a lot of people have heard over the years, you don't want to have a rounded back. You don't want to have a rounded back in your deadlift because this is, it could be too much back muscles, not tapping into like your glutes. So what I actually see a lot of is an overcorrection, and people have like an arched back like this, which is also not great because your back is in this like flexed state, and that is going to fatigue your muscles and wear on them. It's, you know, overcorrecting that issue is also not great. Another thing that I see a lot is people think that like, oh, if hip extension, which is where your hips are nice and flat right here, if that's ideal, well, I'm going to take it a step further and go like this, right? So they're throwing their shoulders back, they're crunching through their lower back, they're sending their hips forward, which is going to put pressure on your lower back. And then also it's not helping your abs. So when we talked about core bracing earlier this week, if you have a braced core and you're nice and tight through your abdominals, you're really not able to do both of those things. So I want you to think about at the top of your deadlift, just a nice neutral hip and core position, and just growing tall at the top, but not over squeezing. I think it's like the glute squeeze that we like, right? Like, oh, I'm going to overdo it. That's not good. Just squeeze to the top, get nice and tall, and that's it. Hips back, back is flat, stand it up. So with those things in mind, let's get a nice set of 10 deadlifts where we start from the beginning. Just make sure our feet are connected to the floor. They're glued down, the letter H with our feet and our kettlebell. Push those hips back, nice flat back. Bend down as much as you need to get to the kettlebell. Break the handle to crank those shoulders back and stand it up. So we're gonna go 2 seconds down, tap, 1 second up, squeeze. 1,002, up. 1,000, 1,000, up, and squeeze. Good. Keep it going. Really focusing on that mind-body connection. As you're standing, you should be feeling your glutes squeezing as you lift. A little stretch on your hamstrings as you hinge back down to the floor. Let's do 3 more. Good. And last one. Good. Okay, so those are our deadlifts. Going nice and slow and really thinking about our positioning, squeezing the muscles that we're trying to activate. Hopefully you're feeling, you know, your backside, your hamstring, maybe a little bit of like lower back activation. And yeah, that's what you should feel. Not really feeling as much quads or anything else really in the deadlift. Let's go through overhead presses. So an overhead press is a complement, or it's like the exact opposite, I guess, of a row, which is what we did yesterday. And I'm just gonna grab a lighter kettlebell, which is what I would suggest for most people on overhead presses. Before we start on the overhead press, I just wanna review what we did yesterday with the split stance row. So a row, we used a single arm or single kettlebell. We worked one arm at a time. It's an upper body pulling exercise, right? We're pulling that weight up to our body. An overhead press is going to be single arm exercise. We're going to use one kettlebell at a time. And it's a pressing exercise. You're pressing that weight up over your head. So this is going to be a great exercise for someone who does have good shoulder mobility. So we are able to bring our arms up by our ears. We're not here like this or like this, right? So if your arms are by your ears, you can get them relatively straight and that feels good to you. Let me see the other side. Good. Okay. We're clear. Okay. So we're going to pick up the kettlebell and bring it into rack position like we learned in the second workshop. And if you haven't learned that yet, that's okay. It's not that complicated, but we're just gonna get to rack position on whatever side you wanna start with. I have my right hand. Your thumb is gonna be towards your body. Your pinky finger is facing away and your wrist is nice and straight. Pull that elbow down so that your upper arm is hugging into the side of your torso. And then before we start our press, I know you can't see my feet, but my feet are about hip distance apart. They're glued to the floor. That's, you know, our feet are stabilizing into the floor, gripping the floor nice with your feet. Quads are engaged, butt is squeezed, abs are engaged. And then we're going to take this kettlebell out to the side just a little bit, a little baby like J hook, and then we're going to take it all the way up. So at the top of your press, your wrist, the inside of your wrist is facing forward. Yep. And then your arm is straight and your arm is back by your ear. Then we're going to take it into a little baby J hook back down. So there's a little bit of rotation happening out and up, and we're turning our hands. Because in rack position, we're in a neutral grip. So our wrist is facing the midline of our body. At the top of our press, the inside of our wrist is facing forward. So there's a little bit of like rotation happening through our shoulder. Let's do one more. Arm by your ear, good. And then back down to your chest. Now let's go ahead and get rid of the kettlebell by parking it, just letting it drop off of your wrist, turn around. It's going to go right back into your feet, right back to the floor between your feet. And then we'll clean it up on the left side. So left arm grabs it, pulls it into rack position on the left side. Thumb is facing your body, pinky fingers away, nice and straight wrist, and then pull that elbow down. Good. Feet are connected to the floor, tight with your quads, your butt, your abs. And then we're going to take this weight just out to the side a little bit and then all the way up. Good. Arm by your ear, nice extension. We're going to just hold it at the top for like 1 second, and then we're going to come down about the same pace as we went up. So this is a slow exercise. Up and back. One of the things that I see happen a lot when people's shoulder mobility is a little bit compromised, we'll do one more, is they start to do this. So their butt comes out, their ribs flare forward, and it's putting pressure on their back. So one of the things that sometimes you'll see me do, not always, is just keeping my hand either like on my ribs or on my stomach. And that's just a reminder to stay tight and stay neutral through my pelvis and my core so that I'm not doing something that's gonna be problematic. So let's go ahead and park that kettlebell, and then we'll do one more set, right and left. We'll go 5 reps on the right, set it down, and then 5 reps on the left. So just standing right over the top of your weight, hips back. This is a hinge position, by the way, just like your deadlift. We'll clean that kettlebell up to rack position. So your wrist is straight, and the opposite of a straight wrist would be something like this. So the kettlebell is resting on the back of your wrist, nice straight wrist, and like your fingers are really kind of forward over the handle. Feet are glued to the floor, tight with your quads, your glutes, your core, a little bit out, and then all the way up to your ear. Good. Pause at the top. I'm just mimicking the right hand with my left hand, or you could go here, or you could go here. There's no rules. Actually, there's a lot of rules. Let's do 2 more. Last one. One of the things that is helpful when you're using a heavy weight, which I don't want anyone to be using a heavy weight today, just because we're learning and we're getting comfortable with the movement, but an overhead press is something that like over time, you want to bump up your weight and you feel like a real badass when you're like, oh my gosh, I'm overhead pressing like double what I used to be able to do. So one of the ways to get stronger in your overhead press is just squeeze the crap out of like every other muscle in your body, whether it's your lower body, this opposite hand, just squeezing your opposite hand and just radiating like strength through all the muscles of your body actually makes this overhead press feel probably a lot lighter or more doable. So that's one of the strategies of like getting stronger, is just creating more tension through your body. I'll do 2 more. And last one. Awesome. So we're going to put this together. I'm going to use a heavier weight for my lower body, which is what I used in the first place. Heavier weight for my lower body deadlift, my hinge, my lower body pulling exercise, and a lighter weight for my overhead press. And let's just go ahead and do, let's do one set of 10 deadlifts, and then we'll just do one more set of 5 overhead presses on each side, just because we're pretty close to that 30-minute mark, and I don't want to go too much past it. But this is like a normal superset like I would do in my group fitness classes, where we're combining a lower body exercise with an upper body exercise so that we can move pretty quickly and not need a ton of rest in between our exercises and in between our sets. So to get started with our deadlift, feet are about hip distance apart, creating that letter H with your kettlebell right in between the arches of your feet. We're going to send those hips back. Make sure your feet are glued to the floor. Reach down for that kettlebell handle. Keep your shoulders lifted. Break the handle, pulling your shoulders down and back. And then we're just going to stand that weight up. Squeeze your glutes. Grow nice and tall at the top. Inhale down, tap, and stand. Nice and easy. Exhale as you're standing. This is one of my favorite exercises. I like deadlifts a lot more than squats. Squats are still one of the banes of my existence. They're getting easier, but they're still not fun. I love deadlifts. I think we tend to like what we're good at or what comes easy to us. And for me, that's deadlifts. Couple more. But I know a lot of people, when they first start doing deadlifts, it just feels like a very strange way to position your body and to lift something off of the ground. So if it feels weird, that's not uncommon. Okay, we're gonna do 5 overhead presses per side. I'm gonna start with my left side this time. So left hand is gonna grab that kettlebell, bring it into rack position, and then let's get our 5 overhead presses. Little baby hook out and up and back. Exhale on exertion if you're connecting your breath. Exhale here. Inhale back down. I think we have one more. And then we'll go ahead and park that kettlebell between our feet and switch sides. Here we go. Feet are glued to the floor. Quads are engaged. Glutes are squeezed. Core is braced. Awesome. Okay, so those are the last 2 foundational movements that we're going to go through in this Kettlebells 101 course. We're going to put everything together tomorrow in a full 30-minute total body workout. So we're going to do about a 5-minute warm up, and then we're going to do 2 supersets. So 2 blocks of exercise. The first one will be the movements that we learned on Wednesday, which are squats and rows. And then the second one will be deadlifts and overhead presses. And we're just going to have a block of time, and we're going to run through them at whatever pace that you guys want to go. You know, some people can go faster, some people can go slower, some people have more weight, some people have less weight. So it's going to be, you know, whatever it is you want it to be. But our emphasis is on moving weight and moving with intensity and promoting strength gains. And so that's how I structure my group classes as well, is everybody has their own individual weights that they're working with, their own bodies and whatever's going on with your body. And you can choose, you know, how intense you want to make it for yourself. So that's it for today. If you guys have questions about deadlifts, overhead presses, anything else, go ahead and type it in the chat and I will make sure I answer it. If you have a question that you just want to ask me verbally too, that's totally fine. But you guys did awesome. I'm super glad that you're here and everything looks good. You guys good? All right, awesome. Thank you for being here, and thank you guys for watching the recordings. And Friday's our big final workout, and I hope to see as many people there as possible. All right, have a good one.